Dark Shadows, number 65. VTR 91666, Air 92366, take one.
My name is Victoria Winters. Another touch of blackness has been added to the dark shadows that fill the halls of Collinwood. A shocking death has brought the past alive, carrying it to the doors of the great mansion on Widow's Hill.
What do you want?
Your brother, Mrs. Stoddard. Where is he?
I don't recall asking you to come in.
Where is he, Mrs. Stoddard? Hiding in the basement? Upstairs?
I would like you to leave my house.
Not until I've seen Roger.
He's not here. Will you please leave?
When do you expect him home?
I don't know. Please go.
Mrs. Stoddard, I did not force my way in here, and I am not going to leave. You opened the door and I came in. Now I'm going to stay here until Roger gets back.
Mr. Devlin, I'd like you to tell me exactly what you think you're doing.
I see we're getting formal now. What's the matter, Mrs. Stoddard? Have I trampled on your poise?
You're a very rude young man.
Yes, I am when I have to be. You see, I didn't grow up with these. Mrs. Stoddard, I learned my manners in a waterfront shack.
I want you to leave this house.
What's the matter? Couldn't you find your handyman to have him throw me out of here?
What do you want, Burke?
Roger.
I told you I didn't know when he'd be back.
Mrs. Stoddard, my old man wasn't as such a big shot around this town as yours was. He didn't own the Collins fishing fleet. All he could manage was repairing lobster pots for a living. But he taught me one thing which I never forgot. If you ever want anything bad enough in this life, you have to wait for it. So you just go right ahead with what you're doing. I'll sit over here and wait.
Why do you want to see Roger?
Don't you have some knitting or gardening or something to do?
This is not your waterfront shack. This is my home, and I will not be spoken to in that manner.
What do you want me to say? Bow and scrape and say that I'm happy to be here in the castle on the hill? Let me tell you something, Mrs. Stoddard. I can buy this place 20 times over and never feel it.
You do better to invest your money in learning the rudiments of common courtesy. Now, I want an answer. Why do you want to see Roger?
Why is your plant manager dead?
Bill Malloy drowned. He fell in the water and drowned.
At a most convenient time.
Bill's death had no connection with Roger, and you know it.
You know, I have always admired this room. It has a grandeur that's quite marvelous.
Bill's death was accidental, and that's exactly what the coroner's verdict will be.
The Collins name can accomplish a great many things in this town, but not everything.
There's no point in your seeing Roger, and you know it.
You wouldn't be nervous about this, would you?
What do you hope to accomplish, Burke?
I'll know more about that when Roger gets back.
I want an answer.
This chest, it's over 200 years old, isn't it? It's a handsome piece. What would you want for it?
I will not permit you to stay in this room and wait for Roger until I know what you intend to do.
Are we back to the handyman again?
Oh, no, I can do much better than that, Burke. The sheriff called me this evening. He told me you might try something like this.
Oh, I see. I'm the dangerous man in this town. The destroyer of the peace and calm.
The sheriff told me to call him if you came up here.
Mrs. Stoddard, I intend to wait for Roger. I intend to talk to him, not you. And after we've talked, then you and Roger can tell all the stories and make all the lectures you want to. So you go right ahead and call the sheriff because I'm not leaving.
All right, Burke. We'll settle this. We'll both wait for Roger.
Hello, Miss Evans. This is Roger Collins. I wonder if you might tell me, is your father at home? Miss Evans, I have no desire to discuss Burke, Devlin, or anyone else with you. I merely want to know where your father is. Well, do you know where? Never mind. Thank you very much. Hello, Evans.
I'll have a double.
Let's sit over at the table.
I'm happy where I am.
I'm not interested in your state of mind, Evans. Let's sit at the table and discuss mine. I've been looking for you for quite some time. You're an elusive man, Evans.
Obviously not quite elusive enough.
Have you any particular reason for wanting to avoid me?
Yes. There are times in a man's life, Collins, when he wants to be with friends, or with no one at all.
The sheriff talked to you today about Malloy, didn't he?
You know he did.
Well, why didn't you call me?
Well, I didn't know I was under instructions to report every conversation with the sheriff to you.
Don't start getting smart with me now, Evans. What did you say to the sheriff?
What we agreed.
I want to know exactly what you said to him.
Am I to recite my catechism now?
What did you say to...
Look what you did.
You can buy another drink, you can't buy another life. Now, what did you say to the sheriff?
I told him I had no idea why Malloy wanted you, me, and Burke to meet him at your office on the night he died. He asked me to do if it had anything to do with Burke's manslaughter conviction. I told him I didn't know how I could because it had no connection with Burke's trial. That, Collins, was my speech. I made it beautifully. Now order me another drink.
What speech did you make to Burke? He was at your house tonight.
What did you do, Collins? Bug the clam chowder?
Miss Winters was there when he arrived. What did he want?
Dinner. And I want another drink.
Why did he come there?
Because he thought I killed Bill Malloy. Bring me another double, and put it on Mr. Collins' bill. Burke's on the warpath, Collins. He's after your hide.
Well, that's nothing new.
Malloy's dead. That's new.
I had nothing to do with Malloy's death. He was an old friend of the family. Don't forget that.
Oh, you're funny, Collins. You brightened my night after all. Friend of the family.
Well, there's nothing funny in that.
Oh, but there is. You know it, and I know it. The only time he was a friend of you was when he very conveniently died.
The view is much better in the daytime.
Did you reach him?
I beg your pardon?
The sheriff. Isn't that who you went to call?
Oh, I had no intention of calling the sheriff. I went to put the tea kettle on. Unless you'd prefer a drink, the liquor's over there.
No, thank you.
Sit and wait for tea. Why don't you sit down, Burke? You'll be more comfortable.
I'll stand, thank you.
There's no need to be nervous.
You're worried about me being nervous?
Well, you did say you wanted to get this matter settled, didn't you? And I think we will as soon as Roger gets home. In the meantime, I think it would be nice if you sat down and we had a little chat, don't you think?
I'll discuss this with Roger.
intention of discussing this, as you put it. Tell me, have you noticed any changes in Colin Court since you left? Roger, I do wish you'd sit down. After all, you are a guest. I mean, Bert, please. You're a guest in my house, and I'd like you to be comfortable.
I am not a guest in your house.
Well, I understand there are a lot of new buildings that have gone up in the past 10 years.
Mrs. Stoddard.
Does this still seem like a small town to you? I suppose it does, because you've traveled all over the world, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Is this a making conversation? Is that what the name of this game is?
This is no game, Bert. I'm really interested. After all, I've known you since you were a young boy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, Winters. You know Burke Devlin, don't you?
Yes, hello, Burke.
Vicky?
Why don't you stay and entertain Burke while I get the tea? I'll only be a moment.
That's all right.
Burke, what are you doing here?
I'm not exactly sure. I think I'm having tea.
Burke, the last time I saw you, you weren't exactly planning a social tea at Collinwood.
No, I wasn't.
What is it? Why did you come here?
You concerned for me or them?
At the Evans house, you said some pretty dreadful things about Roger Collins.
True things, Vicky.
Is that why you came here, to accuse him of being involved in Bill Malloy's death?
Vicky, you were asked to entertain me, not question me.
I suppose it's none of my business anyway.
It should be. Do you remember how many times I've told you to leave here? Go home to New York? There's no sense in you getting involved in this.
What are you going to do?
Reach the end of a road. Erase my debts. Settle my accounts. I waited 10 years for this, Vicky.
But Mrs. Stoddard, doesn't she know?
She knows. I almost wish. Tell me, Vicky, how is David?
Fine.
Nice kid. I like him.
Well, then why don't you think about him? After all, Roger Collins is his father.
Vicky, don't. Don't let yourself become involved. You can change nothing and you might get hurt. And that wasn't part of my plan. It also wasn't part of my plan to bust up your dinner party the other evening at Maggie Evans.
That's not important now.
Perhaps not. But there are times when I do wish these pressures weren't here. That we could sit and have a nice, quiet dinner, talk. Simply talk.
About Collinwood?
Certainly not. There are other things in this world besides this big, dark house. There are people and places, excitements. Have nothing to do with Widow's Hill.
Then why can't you settle for that?
I wish I could. God help me, I wish I could.
Well, there was no other way to do it. After I'd run out on Burke at the house, I knew I had to settle it. I knew I had to go back to the hotel and talk to him.
About me?
Oh, about me? Don't worry. I denied any knowledge of whether he was guilty or innocent of the manslaughter charge.
Then why did you go at all?
Because I knew why he'd come to my house. He's determined to find the man who killed Malloy. I had to convince him that I was innocent.
And did you?
I think so, yes. Now you're next on his list.
I see.
Collins, I didn't kill the man. I don't even know that he was murdered.
Don't you? Tell me, why do you get such a special delight in letting me know, as you put it, that I'm next on Burke's list?
I was just informing you. Nothing more.
Remember, Evans, whatever happens to me happens to you. Your punishment may be lighter, but you're older than I am. The sum total may precisely be the same.
You had more reason to kill Malloy than I did.
I'm not talking about him, Evans. I'm talking about 10 years ago. You found it amusing to remind me that Malloy's death was a blessing to me. Well, I'm not denying that it was. But that blessing can become ashes if questions continue to be asked.
Do you think I've thought enough about that?
Well, then don't enjoy the anticipation too much of Burke coming to see me. Because if he does learn anything from any source, you can be sure that you will be involved as well as I.
Collins, wait. Listen, I've been thinking. Some time ago, you said you wanted to help me out. You wanted me to leave town. You said you'd give me some money.
Yes?
Well, I didn't take it then because I think you're right. Yeah, there's going to be questions, and maybe it'd be better if I wasn't around.
I'm sorry. I've withdrawn the offer.
Well, I wouldn't need much, Collins, just enough to get me and Maggie into another town.
Why this sudden change of heart? At the time I made the offer, you were quite indignant. You refused to run.
Well, it's like you said, there'll be questions.
About Burke's manslaughter trial, or are you concerned with Malloy's death?
I told you I had nothing to do with that.
Yes, I know. And you told me you convinced Burke. Well, maybe you did. But I'm not entirely sure that you've convinced me.
Yes, Maggie. Yeah. I'm all right. I told you I'm fine. Oh. I'm sorry if I worried you. Yes, darling, yes. I'm coming home right away. I'm coming straight back. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Vince?
Oh. Thought you left.
I've been thinking about your request. Perhaps I was a bit hasty in refusing to give you money.
You changed your mind, huh?
Yes, I think it might be wise if you did leave town.
Wiser for me or for you?
Well, for both of us, of course, as you said.
Well, I've been thinking, too. And, it was a foolish moment of panic.
Now, come on, Evans. You can't change your mind every few minutes.
Seems we're guilty of the same vice, huh?
But I told you I've thought it over.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you realized how interesting it would seem, both to Burke and the police, if I hurriedly left town during the investigation of Bill Malloy's murder.
That had nothing to do with it.
Well, I know a statement you yourself said you didn't believe a few moments ago, but it's changed now, hasn't it? You suddenly realized how marvelous it would be for you if the police thought I was running out on a murder charge. Yes. I want to thank you for bringing it to my attention.
Evans, I'm offering you several $1,000s.
Keep it. When Burke comes to you, you may need it.
One of the most fascinating places to me, Vicky, was Norway. Those men as sailors. It reminded me of my dad. He would have loved it there.
Did he love the sea that much?
Crazy about it. But he never got much chance at it. He was, well, not too healthy. So he had to settle for being a landlubber.
You must still have a lot of the sailor in you, don't you?
I don't know. I don't know what I am. When I was old enough to think of what I wanted to be, when I grew up, nothing.
When I was little, I wanted to be a bareback rider in the circus. All beautiful, dressed in spangles, and riding the most magnificent big white horse you ever saw.
Did you ever try?
I was in that foundling home. How could I?
You could have run away.
I'm not the running away type.
I wish you were. I mean, from here. I wish you'd pack your bags and run away as far as you can.
To what? The circus and a big white horse?
Maybe. Maybe even to Norway. Anywhere but this dungeon, Vicky. You don't belong with ghosts. You belong with the world. With laughter, smiles, and everything the world can give you.
And you? Where do you belong?
In the dungeon. Here.
I'm sorry it had been so long.
Oh, here, let me help you with that.
Oh, thank you, Burke. Have you two been having an interesting conversation?
Yes, he's been telling me about some of the places he's visited.
None of them have ever seemed as much like home as Collinwood.
Not quite like it used to be in the past, but I'm delighted you still enjoy being here.
Mrs. Stoddard, couldn't we drop all this nonsense about having tea?
Excuse me a minute. Miss Winters, will you serve the tea? Roger, I'm so happy you're home.
Oh, that's sweet of you, Liz. I'm glad to be home. It's been a difficult evening. I could use some peace and quiet.
We have a guest. I was just about to serve tea.
Who is it?
Someone we both knew we had to see sooner or later. Burke Devlin.
Stay tuned for Where the Action Is next, here on ABC. Dark Shadows is a Dan Curtis production.